Okay, we're going to go over a few problems dealing with the area of a square. First of all, a square is just a special rectangle, so that means we can use the formula for the area of a rectangle, which is base times height, or as some books state, the area equals side squared, seeing the base and the height are the same number each time for a square. So the first problem, square with sides of length 5, area equals base times height, so that's 5 times 5, which equals 25. Next problem. Square with sides of length 4. Area equals base times height. 4 times 4 equals 16. The area of that square is equal to 16. Next problem. Area equals base times height. So therefore, base is 1.5. Height is 1.5, or in other words, 1.5 squared is 2.25. Next problem. If the length of the side of the square is equal to the square root of 3, area equals base times height, so that's the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, or the square root of 3 squared, which equals 3. Next problem. Slightly more complicated number, but to show you that it's the same procedure, base times height, 3 times square root of 5 squared, or times itself. I like to rewrite it as 3 times 3 times square root of 5 times square root of 5. 3 times 3 is 9. Square root of 5 times square root of 5 equals square root of 25, which equals 5. And 9 times 5 is 45. So the area of that square is 45. Next one, we can work backwards with the formula. Area equals base times height, so 36 equals x times x, or x squared. So we take the square root of each side, and we get x is equal to 6. And you can always check your answer. 6 times 6 gives you an area of 36, so it checks. Next problem, same as the previous problem, but an added step. Base times height, and area is 12, so that equals x times x, or x squared. So x equals the square root of 12, but the square root of 12 has to be simplified, so we write square root of 12 equals square root of 4 times square root of 3. Square root of 4 is equal to 2. 2 square root of 3 is the value for x there, and once again you can check your answer. For the next problem, there's a couple of different ways you can do the problem. You can use the formula for a rhombus, which is 1/2 the product of the two diagonals, or we'll just stick with the same formula right now, and we'll say the area equals the base times the height. But we have to go off to the side because we don't know the base and we don't know the height. But this triangle, ACD, that is a 45-45-90 triangle. So therefore, we can find the length of one leg by taking the hypotenuse and dividing it by the square root of 2. Square root of 2's cancel, and we find the length of that side of the 45-45-90 triangle is equal to 10. So that is the base of the square, and it's also the height of the square. So 10 times 10 equals 100. The area of the square is equal to 100. Next problem, same type of problem with an added step. We have a 45-45-90 triangle. The area is still going to equal base times height. But to go from the hypotenuse to the length of a leg, for the 45-45-90 triangle, you take the hypotenuse and divide it by the square root of 2. Now that's not in simplified radical form, but I'll show you one way of doing the problem right now. We say the area equals 8 over the square root of 2, and the height is 8 over the square root of 2. And what happens is we end up with 64, 8 times 8, over square root of 2 times square root of 2 equals 2. So even though I didn't simplify the length of the side to be equal to 4 times square root of 2, I got an answer of 32, which is the area of the square. Now if we were to have taken 8 over the square root of 2 and simplified it, multiplying by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2, we would have 8 times square root of 2 over 2. 2 goes into 8 4 times, and would have the length of the side is 4 times square root of 2. Now the area should equal 4 times square root of 2, the base, times the height. 4 times 4 is 16. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 equals 2. And we would have ended up with the same answer. But sometimes it's not necessary in the middle of a problem to write everything in simplified radical form, as you can see here. Next problem. Solving for x, which is the diagonal of the square when the area is given. So we start with the formula for the area equals base times height. So 49 equals x times x, or x squared. We take the square root of each side and we get x equals 7. Shouldn't have called it x, we'll call it y, because that's the value that we just solved for. So now if y is equal to 7, for the hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90 triangle, we have that number times the square root of 2, and that's the value for x. Same for the next problem. Area equals base times height. Area equals y times y. So therefore 40 is equal to y squared. So y equals the square root of 40. Square root of 40 simplified. 40 equals 4 times 10. So we get 2 times the square root of 10 for the length of a side. If that is equal to 2 times square root of 10, it's also a side for, or a leg for a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So we take that number times the square root of 2, and we have the value for x. So that gives us 2 times square root of 20. That's still not simplified, so we have to write that as 2 times square root of 4 times square root of 5, and that gives us 2 times 2 times square root of 5, which gives us a final answer of 4 times square root of 5. And I guess that's the last problem I have for you today. Hope all that helps. Good luck on your quiz.